When the pH is 7, then it's a case where the sample is neither acid nor base. But less than 7, it's an acid, we say. More than 7, it's a base all the way.
Welcome to another past HSC exam question videos. In this video we're going to cover this exam question, which comes from the Ester chapter. What I'll do in a second, I'll read the actual question. Once I read the question, you have about 5 seconds to pause the video. Once you pause the video, attempt the question, and then press play when you're ready. The question itself says, justify the procedure you used to prepare an Ester in a school laboratory. Include relevant chemical equations in your answer. And that's worth 6 marks. So when you're ready, pause the video and attempt the question. Welcome back. Alright, so for this question it's worth 6 marks. That's a decent amount of marks. And it says justify as well. So justify means not just list the equipment and list the procedure, but why you did it as well. What were the reasons why you used these things that you used? Justify the procedure. And it says include relevant chemical equations. So it should be a chemical equation there as well. That will be worth a mark as well. So in this case, what I did first is I just quickly talked about the procedure. Right? So what we used first, and then I justified it. So why we use that procedure came second. And I also had in between, I had my chemical equation of a alkanoic acid and a alkanol coming together to form an ester. And that will get me the full 6 marks. So what I wrote first was add small amounts of alkanoic acid, for example glacial acid, and small amounts of alkanol, for example ethanol, into a flask. And here it can be quite specific if you remember the same like the amounts you actually used. So for example, you could say 15 mils. If you use 50 mils, you could say 50 mils of alkanoic acid and 50 mils of alcohol. If you actually remember the values. So in this case, first I just stated, okay, we had an alkanoic acid, we had an alcohol, and we put them together in a flask. That's the first part. Then we added a few drops of sulfuric acid, and also placed some boiling chips into that same flask. So that was sulfuric acid and boiling chips came second. Then we attached a reflux condenser to the flask and heated, so it's supposed to be heated, not heat, and heated the solution with an electrical heater for about 30 to 60 minutes. That can be your hot plate as well. I mean, if you wrote hot plate, that's the same thing. And the time wise is about 30 to 60 minutes. So this, and then comes the equation. So this is the structural equation. This is our glacial acid. This is our ethanol. They come together to form the ester, and water, which is what happens in a ester formation, esterification. So that's the first. Now I'll actually get 3 marks for all of this. So just the procedure itself will give me 3 marks, and the equation. And then I need to justify. So I need to say why did I use these different things, and that will get me the rest of my marks. So I wrote the sulfuric acid was added as it acts as a catalyst and speeds up the rate of reaction. So we add the sulfuric acid because it acts as a catalyst. The electrical heater produces heat, which also speeds up the reaction. So that's why we use an electrical heater, because it speeds up the chemical reaction. But using a heater, but it's less likely to cause the solution to react in a volatile manner when compared with the use of a Bunsen burner. So we used an electrical heater and not a Bunsen burner because it makes it all less volatile. And that's why we used the electrical heater as opposed to the Bunsen burner. So here we've just justified our equipment. A reflux condenser was used as the ester that is formed is very volatile, which means it could escape into the atmosphere. So we don't want it to escape in the atmosphere, therefore we use a reflux condenser. What does the condenser do? The condenser makes sure that the gaseous ester is turned back into liquid and returned to solution. So that's its actual purpose. Here again, we've just justified the actual equipment we used. The 30 to 60 minute time frame is chosen as it allows for enough time for a good amount of ester to be formed. So again, here this second part was all of our justification, and we'll get our 3 marks if we've justified enough for our actual equipment and if the procedure. So that will be the other 3 marks. Total of 6 marks out of 6. So even though that sounds like you need to talk a lot about your actual procedure, it's more or less a quick procedure, definition or a summary of your procedure, and the rest is just your justification of that procedure. And obviously you need to have your chemical equation in there as well somewhere. And where that come from? It came from this dot point. Identify data, plan, select equipment, and perform a first investigation to prepare an Easter using reflux. So you should have done something similar in your school lab. So you should just remember that procedure, because there's a couple of questions which do talk about Easters you would have formed in your class. So be prepared for such an example, such a question in maybe your HSC, your trials, or your midterm, or wherever else. Hopefully that was useful.
Thank you for watching.